Support us by hitting the thumbs up button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Welcome sa liknayan.podcast at kami nagbabalik sa episode na ito. Ang gusto natin pag-usapan ay nuclear science. At dahil sa popular demand na maintindihan ng nuclear science, bunga marahil ng popularity ng bagong movie na Oppenheimer, ay sinasamahan tayo ng isang expert sa nuclear science at siya ay mula sa Philippine Nuclear Research Institute. So i-welcome natin sa episode at sa Liknayan podcast si Dr. Alvie Astronomo na isang associate scientist sa PNRI. So, hi Dr. Alvie.
Hello Reggie, magandang araw sa nakikinig or nanonood.
Hello. So thank you sa pag-accept ng invitation namin. So unang-una, sure ako gusto ka makilala ng audience namin dito sa podcast. Pwede mo bang ipakilala sa amin ng iyong sarili at bigyan kami ng idea kung paano ka ba nagiging isang nuclear scientist or ano yung journey na nagdala sa iyo papunta dito sa place mo ngayon sa PNRI?
Lahat naman tayo, unique yung possible na journeys natin. On my end, it's very unusual kasi I started in physics teaching. Tapos I got familiar with nuclear nung nag-attend ako ng isang seminar na kinukonduct sa PNRI. After attending that seminar, I really got inspired na, wow, this is something that I would like to pursue kasi nalaman ko ang dami niyang application. Hindi lang pala sa energy, sa development, but also in agriculture, medicine, industry. And mula noon, parang sobrang na-inspire ako. Kaya I transitioned to pure physics. Kasi inisip ko na magandang background ng physics kasi dahil fundamental science siya, madaling mag-transition into other fields. So eventually, I applied at PNRI noong 2010. I got in. And tapos nandun na ako nung nag-take ako ng PhD. Although that time, medyo nag-start ako ng family. Kaya even if I was considering going abroad, I had to limit myself with options sa Philippines.
Yeah.
Pero, ayun, so I took physics pa rin. And now, I had an opportunity na maging head ng Nuclear Reactor Operation Section. And then, after that, nag-apply ako sa Scientific Career System. I hope you postdoc guys would also consider. Kasi yan yung mga options na pwedeng attractive pa rin for career advancement dito sa Pilipinas, yung scientific career system.
Exciting. So thank you for the head up sa scientific career system. So sa akin kasi talagang gusto ko bumalik after some time. So hinahanap ko yung mga opportunities na yan. Kasi hindi ako ganun ka-aware. Anyway, so madami kaming nadinig na kwento na dito sa podcast ng mga journeys toward their places in their careers. But first time na may nanggaling sa physics teaching, so which is exciting kasi I think it gives merits sa efforts ng PNRI to actually reach out kasi na-inspire ka niya to go to this place right now. Ang ganda. So yun yung follow up ko pala nung nag-apply ka sa PNRI after graduating undergrad?
After my master's.
Master's?
Aral muna ako ng MS Physics and immediately after graduation, saan ako nag-apply sa PNRI.
Oh, exciting. So, mas malalim lang. What brought you to applying to physics teaching before?
Oh, it's because of the DOST scholarship. Kasi I got it. Tapos, during that time, parang nung nakuha ko siya, parang sarado na lahat yung application sa ibang mga schools and pa sa PNU where physics teaching na closest sa physics. So, yun yung kinuha ko. Kasi diba, not sure if you were familiar with the DOST allowances na highest physics. So, economic reason eventually I fell in love with physics kasi the way it describes the world, the universe, how orderly everything is. Kaya nagtuloy-tuloy ako.
Actually, I think nag-rape na nga yung incentives na galing dito sa DOST scholarship kasi madami sa mga guests namin sa podcast ay napunta sa physics because of the scholarship. Tapos nandito na sila sa magagandang places sa career nila, nagpo-postdoc, faculty, professors, scientists. Tapos ito yung singularity pag trace mo back yung paths nila is the incentive for the DOST scholarship. Tapos,
pag nasa high school ka or you will not really consider it as a career option di ba? Pero sa nakita mo, bakit kaya? Parang it will really pique your interest na mas mataas yung allowance niya.
Nice. But, kasi first time din namin mag-guest from physics teaching. Ano yung, madali ba yung transition from physics teaching to when you transition sa MS, nung pure physics na yung itinake mo na degree?
Medyo iba kasi yung program namin. It's Bachelor of Science in Physics for Teachers. So, ibig sabihin, parang more on, compared to yung Bachelor of Secondary Education, medyo mas advanced yung courses. So, hindi ganon kahirap yung transition. Although, of course, meron pa rin mga bridge subjects. And I think, marami rin sa amin, so sa may same course that I have na same, nag-pure physics din, eventually. Not sure if you know Denny Lane Sombilio.
Yeah. Kakilala ko.
So, they're same yung course namin nung college.
Siya tayo nagtuturo ng nuclear ngayon sa NNIP. Yeah, pati nag-head siya ng group sa energy. So, di ko alam yan. Ayos. But what about yung transition sa nuclear to doing actual nuclear research? Kasi halimbawa sa physics, often madaming concepts na na-oversimplify mo when physicists talk, right? So sure ako aware ka naman. Like kapag battery, it boils down to an RC circuit, but actual batteries are much different. May madaming engineering part, yung labor, which takes hours and hours to get halimbawa yung efficiency ng magagawa mong battery. I guess mas matindi pa yan sa nuclear science. So what about yung journey from MS physics to doing your nuclear science research now?
I was fortunate to have an advisor kasi yung naging thesis ko nung master's, optics, photonics siya. So, experimental. So medyo ako parang grounded naman sa idea na if anything can go wrong, it will. Murphy's Law. So, looking at the concepts, tapos pag actual na implementation na. So, so grounded ako sa ganung and so shout out lang din just in case. Ang advisor ko nung Masters and PhD is Dr. Rafael Guerrero of Ateneo. And sobrang na-inspire lang din ako sa kanya of making the most na available dito sa Philippines. And so when I got to PNRI, ay sa mga napansin ko, medyo kulang sa nuclear research actually. PNRI has been existing for since 1958. So, 60 years na almost 60 years na yung PNRI din. Pero ang naging, mula nung nawala yung Nuclear Research Reactor at saka yung Bataan Nuclear Power Plant, eventually, nawala ang nuclear research. So, ang naging focus is radiation research. Difference is, pag nuclear research may involve na transmutation ng nucleus. Pag radiation research, we just harness yung radiation na iniinit ng nucleus and its interaction with different materials. So, doon nag-focus. And with that, excellent ang record ng PNRI. In fact, sorry na yung
sa radiation.
Sa radiation research. Kasi, among research and development institutes sa buong DOST family, number 1 ng PNRI in terms of publications at saka in terms of income din sa service provided. So, that is a testament na okay naman yung radiation research. Pero nuclear research only started around 2014. And with our
that's and kayo yung gumagawa nun ngayon. Ikaw ba yung nag-start?
It's a small group of people. In fact, it was a former physicist, associate scientist din. Kaya lang, unfortunately, nagsisimula pa lang siya. He's about to start mentoring. Kasi may parang bagong bagong batch ng mga researchers, including me, na bagong pasok sa PNRI that time. Tapos parang sisimulan pa lang niya yung program. Unfortunately, May 2014, we had this discussion pa in proposing the project. September 2014, he passed. He passed away.
Oh.
So parang naiwan kami as orphans na young researchers, wala kaming mentors. So we had to really study everything from scratch. And the thing is, merong mga neutron sources sa PNRI, pero pag tinatanong namin yung mga tao, ay ano po to? Sasabihin lang sa amin, huwag kang lalapit dyan, may neutrons yan. Parang institutional knowledge about neutrons, nag-decline talaga siya nung na-shut down yung Philippine Research Reactor 1 since 1988, na-shut down siya. Not sure, are you familiar na meron tayong reactor?
Yes, I heard about it. Pati yung pag-shutdown ng Bataan Nuclear Power Plant. Yung isa hindi ako ganun ka-familiar. Well, actually, now na nasa point na naman tayo na to, maybe you could just rewind a little and just give us yung overview ng research na ginagawa niyo sa group mo. Kasi I'm sure excited na yung ng audience na mapakinggan itong mga bagay na to. Kasi ito yung hindi namin nakukuha talaga. So, ano yung main gist ng research na ginagawa sa group mo? And if you could also share some of the main activities ng PNRI and if you can link it, ano yung significance sila to us really understanding nuclear reaction?
So, mula nung maintindihan ko yung about neutrons, doon na talaga ako na-attract. Parang I gravitated towards that field. So, essentially, nag-start ako mag-aral ng neutrons noong 2014 din. And pag may neutron ka kasi, and when it interacts with a material, automatically that's a nuclear reaction. Kasi diba it's a neutral particle. So it will not be affected by the Coulomb field of the nucleus.
I see.
Kasi papasok talaga siya sa nucleus at magkakaroon ng interaction. So the moment na may neutron source ka, nuclear reactions are always occurring. And there are different neutron sources. So we do not find neutrons in nature kasi normally bound siya sa nucleus lang siya. Siya doon. Pag nakakita ka ng free neutrons, magdidecay yan with a half-life of around 10 minutes into a beta particle and a proton. So mawawala rin siya. So pag may nakita kang mataas na level na neutron, merong artificial source talaga yun. And ang typical na source, most common is isotopic source. So, meron kang isotope. Usually, ang ginagamit namin, meron kaming heavy nucleus like plutonium, americium, or polonium. And dahil very heavy yung nucleus nito, unstable, nag-i-emit siya ng alpha particles. Okay pa ba?
Yeah, sobrang interested ako. Madami na akong tanong sa totoo lang.
Okay. So, pag tumama yung alpha, tapos itong heavy nuclide na to, it's usually combined with a light element like beryllium or lithium sometimes, but usually beryllium. So, pag sinama itong heavy nuclide na plutonium or na alpha emitting at itong light element, tatama yung alpha particle dun sa light element kasi na-knock off niya yung neutron. Nagiging neutron source siya. So, parang meron tayong homogeneous mixture nung minsan alloy siya, minsan powder form. Nung, let's say, plutonium beryllium or americium beryllium or antimony beryllium. So, yun
It's almost like kapag may nakuha kang neutron na nag-interact with something, and this is a free neutron, you can guess na ganito yung process na nag-lead sa kanya.
Isa pa lang yun sa klase ng neutron source. Meron pang isa na mas familiar, which are reactors. So, sa reactor naman, saan nanggagaling yung neutron? You have a heavy nucleus, a uranium nucleus, for example. Pag tinamaan siya ng neutron, mag-i-split into 2 lighter fragments. So, that's nuclear fission. Pero in the process, you produce more neutrons. So, and actually, sa ngayon, ang biggest neutron source pa rin sa buong mundo ay research reactors and the nuclear power plants. Pero magkaiba itong mga facilities na ito in terms of purpose. Kasi nuclear power plant, for power generation, pero research reactors, we produce neutrons for different applications like research or isotope production.
So, try ko i-differentiate tong dalawang sources. So, yung unang source from a heavy isotope.
Yes.
Tama ba? Is this is, I understand, na natural ito, or you can find it somewhere? O hindi din. Then, so both of them, so source 1 and source 2, you have to produce in the lab.
Yes. Although, in some cases, pero sobrang liit nito na hindi siya useful sa ibang mga application. Kasi sa Earth naman, merong natural abundance ng uranium, right?
Yeah.
Yan. So, when you find, or meron ding natural abundance ang iba pang alpha-emitting heavy elements. Pag iyon, for some reason, within that terrestrial sample, for example, na-combine with light element, possible magkaroon ng natural na reaction. Pero it has to have exactly the right condition kasi maliit ang range ng alpha particle. So kung hindi dikit na dikit yung beryllium, hindi rin siya magkukos ng enough flux ng neutron na detectable.
I see.
Yeah.
So yung gusto ko i-ground sa Philippine setting ngayon. Kasi kung ito yung kinds ng processes, so yung iniisip ko ngayon, kung syempre kung gusto nyo kinoconduct ito sa PNRI, ibig sabihin yung sources ay nakukuha nyo from somewhere. Ibig sabihin yung isotopes. Do you get this from the Philippines, or nag-i-import kayo abroad, or you make it in the lab? So, wala ka talagang idea.
Yeah. The thing is, when we got there, na-stop kasi yung nuclear research for around 30 years. But when we got there are legacy neutron sources. Yung ngayon nabanggit ko na, meron pa nga nakatabi na neutron sources around the PNRI compound na people are just storing kasi hindi nila alam na kung paano i-handle. Basta alam na nila may neutrons yon. So, what our group did, we started characterizing it, confirming kung ano identity ng ano. No, alam namin may neutron, so ginawa namin, we measured yung gamma na ini-emit nung source na yon, and then we were able to positively identify na plutonium beryllium nga siya. And after na malaman namin yung identity niya, now we are using it. We have been using it since 2014 for various training and research activities. And kasi syempre kami muna, nag-start muna kami, we started characterizing it to make sure that when we use it, safe pa rin. Kasi syempre may associated na radiation exposure. So we have to quantify it. We have first we have to identify, and after that we have to quantify to make sure that when we use it, hindi naman kami na overexpose. Tapos, after that, we eventually cater to different students. Parang nag-open kami noon ng annual neutron school na tumatanggap kami ng mga undergraduates para matuto rin on nuclear reaction. So, we started with those legacy sources. And isa pa, yung naging next project namin, after naming ma-utilize.
So, yung legacy sources ay nasa PNRI na.
Yeah. So, it was
nice. So,
nakatabi for around 30 years na walang magagamit.
Alright. So, ano yung kasunod? May isa pang babanggitin ka?
So, ang next project namin, after namin ma-utilize yung... so by the way, kaya hindi siya masyadong napas kasi maliit yung flux. Kasi ang pinakamalaking intensity ng radiation na meron sa PNRI is yung aming gamma radiation force. Yung gamit yun ng chemistry group namin, and sobrang active ng buong chemistry group. Napakadami na nilang na-discover through that research. Pero yung neutron sources, yun nga, medyo napabayaan siya. Ayun.
Exciting. May gusto ko clarify din pala. Kasi from the point of view ng nanonood, halimbawa ng movies, every time may babanggitin na gamma radiation, people overthink. And I guess go over then yung audience. So itong gamma radiation ba na ito ay galing sa nuclear processes kaya or tama ba yung context na nilalagay ko siya or ano yung connection niya sa neutron sources?
Okay. Medyo ano to First, gamma radiation definitely originates from the nucleus. Ang difference ng gamma radiation sa X-ray radiation, X-ray kasi from electronic transition lang, so atomic level pag X-rays. Pag gamma rays, it comes from an unstable nucleus. So,
I
pag
see.
so,
Mas
parang
excited ako sa audience namin ata.
yung electronic transition, yun yung X-rays. Yung or X-rays or photon visible light, of course, infrared and so on. Pero kapag nuclear transitions, yung movement ng mga nucleons na, protons and neutrons, and kapag may beta decay na involved, doon nagkakaroon ng emission ng gamma rays. Kaya definitely, it's a nuclear reaction. For example, ang source sa PNRI, biggest inventory ng radioactive material sa Pilipinas, is a multi-purpose irradiation facility which uses cobalt-60. Ang stable nucleus ng cobalt is cobalt-59. Now, to make it cobalt-60, it has to be irradiated with neutrons. Okay, so cobalt-59, when it absorbs a neutron, becomes cobalt-60. And cobalt-60, dahil may excess neutron siya, it's excited. So it will decay by beta emission and gamma emission.
Yung gamma.
Yeah.
I
So
see.
yun yung no?
Thank you sa pagpapaliwanag nitong mga to. Talagang, syempre, pag nanggagaling sa expert, iba talaga yung iba yung appeal niya. And may gusto pa akong i-clarify na isa. Kasi when you study neutron sources and sabi mo ito yung naging interest mo, nag-link sa'yo sa nuclear, I guess gusto ko ma-clarify para sa akin, pati sa audience, kung synonymous ba yung neutron sa nuclear?
It's one of the basic or one of the basis ng nuclear physics pero kumbaga if you have this whole umbrella of nuclear physics, neutrons is in one of those areas there. Kasi syempre pag high energy na, when you have two nucleus hitting each other, ibang usapan na yon. Kasi meron ding field na neutron physics which has a smaller branch ng nuclear physics. So what I would say is we are more specializing on neutron physics.
Neutron physics.
Yeah.
Exciting talaga. Though, kung tama din, alala ko sa mga, kasi nag-take naman ako ng nuclear physics class din dati. Tapos yung base reactions niya ay, kung tama alala ko, para sa chemistry, di ba, may chemical reactions ka, may left and right side. So yung left becomes the right. Sa nuclear, kung tama alala ko, palagi may neutron sa kanan. So,
or it's also possible na yung neutron is nasa kaliwa rin.
yeah.
Could also be a product, or it could also be the one inducing a reaction. So yung neutron, pwedeng siya yung nag-initiate, or pwede rin siya yung product. Pwede rin kasi with accelerators, di ba pag nag-accelerate ng iba't ibang ions, pwede siyang mag-cause din ng nuclear reaction. Ang difference kasi ang neutron, dahil neutral siya, we cannot accelerate it. So yung sarili niyang energy from its source, yun na yun. Tapos, pero hindi mo naman siya kailangan i-accelerate ng malakas or into high speeds kasi dahil neutral nga siya, hindi siya repelled ng positive field na nucleus. Unlike if you have two ions na parehong positive, kailangan talaga siyang i-accelerate para ma-penetrate yung Coulombic barrier and mag-cause ng reaction. So, in that sense, simpler ang neutron physics.
Though sa, yung nilalaman ko talaga yung mostly nanggagaling sa popular media ng nuclear science. So, I understand ito yung pwedeng feature ng neutrons na na-utilize for studying it. But also, I think ito din yung gumagawa sa kanya na medyo dangerous. Kasi alam mo, ito ba yung same na reason na alam mo, sobrang damaging niya doon sa Chernobyl? Kasi yung Chernobyl ay sikat na nangyari dati, di ba? Tapos malaki yung damage niya. And I guess dahil din siya sa neutrons just passing everywhere. So what does Chernobyl thing is, sobrang dami mong neutrons basically running free. So destroying yung cells, yung organisms. Is this a good way of putting it? Nawawala na ako.
It's okay. It's not neutrons per se, but it's because of the design of the nuclear reactor itself. Actually, medyo ang nabanggit ko pa lang, okay lang, medyo mag-backtrack tayo sa saka tayo.
Go. Please. Yeah.
So, nag-start kami with isotopic neutron sources. And then eventually, kasi di ba merong iba't ibang sources ng neutron. So, we started with isotopic sources. And then, eventually, meron din kasing research reactor sa PNRI. I'm not sure if you're familiar do sa egg-shaped dome along Commonwealth.
Dumadaan ako dun.
That's the reactor. And doon ako nag-work.
Hindi ko man lang alam. Kasi yung mga nagkaklase sa UP, nandun yung gym. Sure ako alam mo din, nandun yung gym, malapit. So, alam mo yung mga tatawid ng papunta dun sa tulay dun. Kasi dun sila sasakay pa uwi. Ay nakikita yan palagi. So, hindi ko alam na nuclear reactor.
Yes, so it's actually the first ever nuclear facility in the Philippines. Mas nauna pa siya sa Bataan Nuclear Power Plant.
Tapos operational yan ever since?
Ayun. So medyo sorry, bibigyan kita ng konting history, okay lang?
oh, please. Kasi wala talagang alam.
We acquired it under the Atoms for Peace program ng US noong 1955. Tapos nagsimula siyang mag-operate noong 1963 until 1984. And during that time, it was the center of nuclear research in the Philippines. So talagang active tayo. And in fact, at par tayo with our neighbors in Southeast Asia. And ngayon, by 1984, dati nga, foreigners ang nag-OJT sa atin, fellowship training sa Nuclear Research Reactor. But by 1984, medyo 20 years na siya nag-operate. So it's encountering aging issues na, tsaka obsolete na ibang parts. In-upgrade siya into a 3 megawatt research reactor. So it's not for power generation, for research talaga siya. Kaya lang after nung conversion, na-shutdown siya since 1988. So isa yun sa mga 30 years na nakatenga. And then, yun yung next project ng team namin. So, since 2016, so naka-shutdown siya. So, I'm not sure kailan ka ba nag-aaral sa UP at nag-gym doon?
2010 ako.
Shutdown pa yun.
Shutdown sa lang. Kung tama yung history ko ngayon, so operational siya from 55 to 82.
Sorry, 63.
63.
Simula yung deal. Pero 1963.
Okay. 1963 to 84. And then wala siyang ginagawa for a while. And then 2016, operational siya ulit.
No, not yet. So, nag-start
not yet. Okay.
Yes. Parang nag-start lang yung idea, also conceptualized by our former associate scientist, na i-revive yung reactor. Kasi nandun yung fuel. And yung fuel na yun were only used for around 5 hours. So, it's practically new at nakatabi lang for 30 years then. And those are uranium fuel, uranium zirconium hydride. Tapos, it's enough to power a 3 megawatt reactor. And so, it's sitting there unutilized, tapos mini-maintain. And eventually, even if our former associate scientist passed away, yung group namin continued to work on it. And I was given the opportunity to lead the project. So we started the project yung hard work on it started in 2017. And last year, it was commissioned. Sorry,
Congrats.
Feeling ko kasi 2023 pa ngayon. 2022 siya na commission. 2023 nag-start na kami mag-operate.
Congrats. Yeah.
And
Amazing effort kasi alam ko na madaming hurdles yung science, but not always do you see na by 2014 then everything stops, or tas kailangan mo i-figure out halos lahat um on your own, or kayo yung group ng time na yun, you needed to figure out the pieces, then get things operational again, and then that was a decade ago, right?
yeah.
So big congrats, and I really appreciate the effort that goes into this, kasi yung applications ng nuclear science are very promising. And actually gusto ko i-bring yung usapan natin dito sa next part. Kung ano yung kung ano yung possible na applications ng nuclear science.
It's a very broad application. Hindi ko siguro itatouch yung high energy physics application, more on dun sa range natin, sa MEV range. And in particular, neutron reactions or neutron-induced nuclear reactions. So medyo nabanggit ko kanina na when neutrons interact with a stable nucleus, pwede niyang magawa itong radioactive. So pag naging radioactive yung material na to, doon dadami yung kanyang application. Pwede siyang magamit for example, sa medical application, ginagamit for radiation therapy. Ginagamit din siya for diagnosis, yung imaging from inside the body. So, ang pwedeng example noon, from a reactor-produced isotope, pwedeng ibabind yon sa isang pharmaceutical, tapos iti-take ng patient, and possible ma-image yung function ng organs. So, that's for the medical application. In agricultural research, nagagamit din siya. For example, yung ratio ng nitrogen-14 and I think nitrogen-15. Tapos, i-monitor yon and makikita kung gaano ka-efficient yung pag-uptake ng fertilizer sa iba't ibang crop products or agricultural products. Sa industry and material irradiation. Yeah, so sobrang daming application on. Our chemistry group, very active dito. Ang dami nilang na-develop na bagong material by irradiating a sample. By the way, yung idea na tinamaan ng radiation, nagkakaroon ng changes, it happens on the molecular and atomic level, hindi as a macro.
Yeah. Gusto ko na din itanong nga din yan eh. Though may gusto din ako i-clarify din, kasi imaging works by right? Sa X-ray, shooting yung X-rays, and then mag-scatter siya, then you can see an image. So ano yung ini-scatter in this kind of imaging na ginagawa sa nuclear science?
Ang difference naman is for X-ray kasi nasa labas yung source, tapos parang papadaanan ka lang, tapos you have a film on the other side para makita, diba? Tapos parang depende sa attenuation.
Yeah.
So yun makikita film. Ito different kasi ipapasok yung radioactive material sa katawan ng tao. And then, there are cameras around a person. And dahil yung, eventually, kung bound siya ng, let's say, sugar, glucose, for example. So, ang glucose kasi, yan yung madalas na, yan yung kinukonsume talaga ng mga cells natin eh. So, magbabind niya sa different parts ng cell natin. And kung saan siya magko-concentrate, usually yung mga cancer cells, malakas mag-consume ng sugar. So, kung ka sa sugar, yan yung perfect condition talaga for cancer cells. So, so eventually, kung saan nagko-concentrate yung sugar, so mapipinpoint kung saan exactly yung cancer cells. And meron kang camera the patient na makikita kung saan nanggaling. Parang matitrace back kung saan galing yung concentrated radiation na nanggaling sa tao. But of course, yung tinitake na radioactive material, mababa yung na parang for a few hours or a few days, wala na yung radioactive material sa katawan ng tao.
That's nice. Yung curious ako dun sa pag-i-ingest niya. How do you get the radioactive material sa tao? So ilalagay ba yun sa tubig? Or?
Oh, okay. So dun sa may part na yun, medyo hindi ko na alam yung details. pwede kita i-connect sa
Okay,
medical.
okay lang.
Mas familiar ako doon sa kung paano napoproduce yung radioactive material kaysa sa sa may medical specific material.
Alright. Yeah. No, okay lang.
I can connect you sa medical physicist.
But please, thank you. So, sobrang dami ko nang natutunan. Pati sure ako yung audience namin sobrang daming bago talaga, exciting na natututunan tungkol sa nuclear science dito. Gusto ko din tanong pa, kasi nagbanggit ka kanina ng mga energy scales, tapos 10 megawatts. Kaso halimbawa sa public, hindi naman talaga nila magigets kung ano yung size ng energy na ito. Ano yung ibig sabihin nitong mga energies? Kaya ba nito mag-power ng laptop halimbawa or cellphone or 10,000 laptops?
For example, yung yung research reactor, when it was first operated, ang power rating niya 1 megawatt. So, kaya niya i-power actually, isang maliit na household for a few days. 1 watt. Kasi, pero that's thermal power. Iba pa kasi electric power. Kasi kung pag gagawin mo siyang plant, may efficiency yan. Usually mga 70% efficiency. So, so just to clarify, na yung research reactor, hindi talaga siya designed for power production. Talagang nagpo-produce siya ng neutrons para sa iba't ibang application. Pero kung pupunta tayo sa power plant, ang power level niyan at least 10 megawatt hanggang 1,000 megawatt. Ang 10 megawatt, it's enough to power a small mining industry or a small community. And in fact, isa yan sa mga thrusts ngayon. Kasi from large-scale nuclear power plants, yung mga Generation 2, Generation 3 designs, more and more people now are designing and are interested in what they call microreactors, na ang power level is 10 megawatt pababa. Pero ito yun, design siya for very small applications, yung mga off-the-grid. For example, mining, hindi connected sa electricity, so pwede siyang
pwede nila dalhin.
Yeah. And
tapos, sabi mo 10 megawatts, but sinabi mo din na 1,000 megawatts.
Yeah. But ang Bataan Nuclear Power Plant ay 620 megawatt. So that's supposed to power as at least some part of Luzon during that time. And pero ngayon yung mga binubuong mga nuclear power plants, especially ang country ngayon na kakatayo lang ng 4 na nuclear power plant, United Arab Emirates. Would you believe that? And they are an oil-rich country. Why? Because they would rather sell their oil. Mas malaki kikitain nila because they know nuclear is cheaper. And by the way, ang nag-construct ng nuclear power plant nila ay Korea.
Oh. Nice. Exciting kasi ito nga din yung siguro underappreciated na feature ng nuclear science efforts. Kasi when nuclear science appears napoportray siya sa popular media, movies, TV series, palagi siyang often in terms sa weapons, but overshadowed yung ibang applications niya, like for medical purposes, and then for power generation. So this is really exciting to hear, and ang ganda bring up nitong mga to. So thank you.
Ren.
We're
share this.
Yeah. Really excited to listen to this. I know nakabanggit ka na, Alvie, kanina ng mga hurdles. That was a really big one. But just in case may iba pa bang hurdles na na-encounter ka or sa research ngayon sa group mo, ano yung mga kinds ng hurdles ba na na-encounter niyo sa nuclear research ngayon?
I think this is something that is shared by the whole scientific community here in the Philippines.
Procurement ba?
Kasama na yun. Pero basically, the lack of facilities. And with the lack of facilities, kakailanganin mo syempre mag-procure. And yan yung napakalaking challenge for us. And of course, you have to defend yung getting the budget muna. Kasi before we procure, kailangan makasecure muna tayo ng funding. So yung convincing our funding agencies that this is something worthwhile, that this is worth investing into. The thing is, hanapan ka agad ng industry partners, hanapan ka agad ng actual application na and naintindihan ko yun kasi ginagamit natin of course yung pera ng bayan eh. That's
Exactly.
our hard-earned tax ng mga tao. Pero of course, so yun yung challenge. But thankfully, we're gradually overcoming that. So kasi ang napansin ko rin, with the scholarship, napag-usapan natin yung mga scholarships kanina, di ba? So, nag-work talaga yung incentive, dumadami yung population. And more people are also pursuing postdocs, highly specialized fields. Pero minsan nalulungkot ako na pagbalik, napaka-limited ng options. And that's because limited din yung facility. And yun yung medyo burden ko nung simula na let's try to build facilities para may mga pinaaral din kami sa staff namin abroad para pagbalik nila may gagamitin sila na pag-a-applyan nung natutunan nila ng mga in-specialize nila abroad. So, yung major na challenge, major hurdle, the lack of facility, and when you try to build one, convincing the funding agency that this is needed, and then once they fund you, the whole process of implementing the project, like how do you start with something na bago sa lahat? Kasi wala namang nuclear expert or nuclear background, lahat kami nung nagsimula kami. So while we're implementing it, we're learning. So naging capacity building din talaga siya. So yung lack of human resource, so just to share, when I first joined yung reactor operations group, 9 kami lahat. Ako lang yung babae. Tapos, ang average, parang more than half retiring. And then, eventually, through the projects, thankfully, nagkaroon ng mga projects, pinagkatiwalaan tayo. Ngayon, 16 na yung nasa team. 4 are women, and average age is 35. So, it has been a big change mula nung nagsimula kami and kung nasa kami ngayon. And I'm really glad that at least around 3 or 4 universities are starting nuclear education programs ngayon. I'm not sure if you know, but UP is starting a nuclear science and engineering graduate program. Dinadraft na.
About time. About time. Sobrang saya ko mapakinggan itong mga to. And sobrang impressed din kasi hindi ko ma-imagine yung kinds ng barriers na nabit nyo within a decade. And you mentioned I think ginusto mo i-highlight yung gender parity, which is better now. Yung age, pati yung impressive na amount ng learning curve na kailangan yung i-hike to get there and to get to this point. But sobrang ang ganda, natutuwa talaga ako malaman itong mga to. And sure ako yung audience din namin ay sobrang impressed dyan sa achievements na yan.
Of course,
I know it's still a long game. I'm sure. Still a long game. And kakastart nga lang ng nuclear science program, but therefore, coming from just my personal side, I think that this should be really supported. I mean, kahit madaming interested sa nuclear science research, and personally even kahit ako nung ginusto ko mag-nuclear science ng undergrad, but there was nothing I could do kasi walang nag-research dito. Tapos, nung time na instructor din ako, nagtuturo ako, may madaming students na nag-approach sa akin tungkol sa nuclear, but wala din ako maitulong because I didn't know anything about it. Walang alam. So, sana malaman ng mga lahat o sa mga nakikinig sa amin na may mga pwede kayong lapitan at may mga nagpa-practice na ng tunay na nuclear science research sa Pilipinas at pinag-aaralan talaga kung paano gumagana yung nucleus, paano mag-produce ng neutrons, and paano sila gamitin sa application. So,
Hindi rin possible yung lahat ng mga na-accomplish ng group namin for the past decade without strong collaboration with the International Atomic Energy Agency. Nuclear, especially nuclear science and engineering, is a very interdisciplinary field. So, multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary. So, we need a lot of engineers. In fact, in our group, we have physicists, chemists, chemical engineers, mechanical, civil, electrical, and so on. Kasi iba-ibang aspeto ng pag-operate ng facility. So, yun pa lang sa section namin. Pero, dahil nga we started with almost zero background on nuclear, we had to, we really have to connect with international partners. And we're fortunate na aside from our local funding through the DOST, we also have a technical cooperation project funded by the International Atomic Energy Agency na sinuport yung project in terms of expert mission, short-term trainings abroad, at yun yung mga naging inputs namin to complete the project. Kasi mahirap, magta-trial and error kami kung wala talaga input.
Yeah. Exciting. And dito din mahalaga yung collaborations kasi lalo kung nag-start ka nga from scratch. And ganito din naman yung na-experience ko kasi since halimbawa, nung graduate ako ng PhD or kahit nung MS, nag-transition ako from fields to fields. Tapos kung i-start mo from scratch ay talagang mabasa ka ng buong textbook which will take you years really. So collaborations eases up that learning curve and actually magandang way din siya to interact and kasi collaborate mas madami ka natututunan more than yung makukuha mo from just trying on your own. So yeah. And then last question here. Hindi ko sure napanood mo yung movie na Oppenheimer, but napanood ko siya, napag-usapan namin siya sa isang episode and siguro may mga mali nga kaming impressions tungkol doon with Philip. So as you practice actual nuclear science research, paano mo na-perceive yung pag-portray dito sa movie na to, which gives hype about nuclear science, but yung team niya is you know yung team naman ng movie.
It's actually a welcome movie. Napanood ko siya. So instead of watching Barbie, I watched Oppenheimer. May Barbenheimer.
Pinanood ko yung dalawa.
Hindi ko pa napanood yung Barbie until now. So anyway, syempre sobrang excited ako nung pinapanood ko. Tapos pag may mga dumadating na mga characters, uy, parang kilala ko yan ah. So, yung kasama ko, and dahil hindi siya sa science field, tulog na siya. Ako, excited pa rin ako. So, anyway, it's a welcome thing. At least for me, personally, I think it's welcome. Why? We have to accept that when nuclear was introduced to the world, it was during the time of a war. And ang na-discover nila through the fission process, diba sila Otto Hahn, sila Niels Bohr, and so on. So nung na-discover nila yung fission process, they're surprised sa chemical reaction, ano yung level ng energy na nakukuha natin? Around electron volt.
Yeah, exactly.
In one nuclear reaction, we get 1,000,000 times of that. So it's a huge amount of power or energy from a single reaction. So dahil time of war, ang unang may isip ng tao ay weapon. So, kasi war eh. So, sadly, yung idea na yon has really marked in the minds of people. And until now, when you mention nuclear, ang naisip agad, weapon. But we have come a long way. The Manhattan Project was completed in around 1945. And that's almost 80 years ago. We have come a long way. In fact, ang tagline ng International Atomic Energy Agency is Atoms for Peace. What I'd like to emphasize here is that we cannot escape the fact that nuclear was introduced during a time of the war. So unang naisip ng mga tao is that it's a weapon. Pero ever since, mas nag-flourish ang peaceful uses ng nuclear. Na, di ba parang common yung first impressions last?
Yeah.
Applicable sa nuclear yon. Hanggang ngayon, yung pa rin yung impression. Pero we have seen countless lives na natulungan, nag-benefit from nuclear. So, yon.
That's really nice to hear. Yeah.
And, pero yon, kita rin yung politics, yung na hindi black and white, yung technology, it's neutral, depende kung paano mo siya gagamitin. Isa sa mga misconception siguro ng mga tao is that a nuclear power plant can explode like a bomb. It cannot. It's physically possible to explode like a bomb. Why? Naalala mo yun sa may part ng Oppenheimer, nag-iipon sila ng marbles in a bowl? It represents yung enrichment. Kasi may dalawang isotope ang uranium. Uranium-235 saka 238. Ang readily na nag-fission, uranium-235. Pero ang natural uranium, 0.7, dalawa yun. It's 99.3% uranium-238 and only 0.7% uranium-235. So, kung lahat ng klase ng uranium ay sasabog, tapos masabog na tayo kasi punong-puno ng uranium yung lupa natin, and even seawater. So, it's not. So, ang mangyayari, kukuha ka ng uranium, papadamihin mo yung uranium-235. Ang tawag doon, enrichment. And for uranium to be weapons usable, it has to be at least 90% enriched. Kaya yung hinaahabol nila yung enrichment na yun. Yun sa number nung tawag doon, marbles. Na by the time na naabot nila yung pwede na natin gamitin weapon. Ayun. And,
hindi ko nga alam yan. Hindi ko na-gets yung context niyan dun sa movie.
Ayun. And sa power plant at sa mga research reactors, 3 to 5% lang ang 235. Kaya hindi siya sasabog.
Wow. Very nice to hear. Gusto ko sana magka-part 2 nito sometime or have another round of just talking about nuclear science research. But close natin yung episode, and gaya ng kung paano namin kino-close yung lahat ng guests episodes namin. What would you advise for casual audience if they're interested in nuclear science? And ito nga, alam mo, gaya ko at madaming nadaanan ko in my career, aspiring researchers in nuclear science, how would you advise them to go about this aspiration?
What I would say is, ano man yung pinanggalingan natin na field, we can always start by learning on our own. And ngayon, what's interesting is, we live in an age na available yung mga information. So, I hope you try to really look for all those references. If you have, kasi ako, kung hindi ako naka-attend nung seminar, 15 years ago, nuclear, I would never have entered this field. So, by intentionally connecting myself to nuclear institutions or nuclear references, na-inspire ako. And from there, I continued studying it. And I may not still be a nuclear, siguro, isa na rin example, I'm not a nuclear engineer. Hindi talaga nuclear yung undergrad ko or even my master's and PhD. But by actually doing it, by learning and by collaborating with people who are experts in the field, our team was able to accomplish yung pag-establish ng mga facilities. And for you guys, kung ano man yung field nyo, yun yung kagandahan ng nuclear. Dahil interdisciplinary siya, meron kang papasukan. Kahit nga law yung background mo, may nuclear law. Kahit communication yung background mo, may science communication, and nuclear will benefit a lot from that. Dahil it has a lot of bad reps. Diba? So, if you're a communication expert like this, kaya nga we really like having mga gantong exchanges.
Yeah.
Kasi parang for a very long time, people are afraid of nuclear. I would borrow the words of Marie Curie, yung nag-discover ng ng radioactivity. And she says na now is not the time to be afraid, but to understand. Usually, we are afraid of what we don't understand. But the more that you learn about it, the less you become afraid.
Nice. Ang ganda ng quote, wala na akong gustong sabihin pa. Maganda na i-end yung episode sa quote na yan. So, thank you, Alvie, sa pagsama sa amin sa podcast. Sana, sure ako madaming natutunan yung audience ng Liknayan Podcast. At kahit ako din, kasi talagang nag-enjoy ako sa usapan.
So maraming salamat sa panonood ng ating bagong episode. At kung nagustuhan niyo yung ating video, huwag niyong kalimutang i-like na yan at click na yan para masuportahan ang ating channel. Maaari niyo rin panoorin ang iba pa nating episodes dito.